Should the Lakers trade for Derrick Rose? The Lakers are coming off a championship season and are looking to build upon their success by hopefully acquiring a point guard to strengthen the roster. They have a lot of options, from signing a free agent like Goran Dragic, trading for a player like Chris Paul, or re-signing Rajon Rondo, who is reportedly looking to opt out and get a boost in salary. I made videos discussing both Paul and Rondo, which you can find in the description, but for now I'm going to discuss yet another guard they've been linked to all season, Derrick Rose. Rose was a trade target at the deadline, but a deal never materialized. Now both the Detroit Pistons and the LA Lakers can meet yet again to make the magic happen. A deal for the two teams wouldn't be difficult to put together, so in this video I'm going to primarily discuss whether the Lakers should trade for Derrick Rose in the first place. Because the new player doesn't just give a team another option, he also affects the salary cap, the system, rotations, and the other guys already on the roster. Hey guys, before we dive into the video, I put a lot of effort into it to try to make a good final product, and I would really appreciate it if you guys would tap that like button, as it would help me out a lot. And also, if you guys are interested in more Lakers content, consider subscribing to the channel. What would Derrick Rose cost the Lakers? So Detroit and LA were close to a deal at the deadline, but the Pistons reportedly turned down a package of Alex Caruso and draft considerations. So a deal of Kyle Kuzma and maybe a second round pick would likely get the deal done. It really wouldn't be a hard decision for LA to make. Kuzma had flashes sporadically throughout the season of the player fans thought he would be after his impressive rookie season. Overall, he was a disappointment during the season and had an even smaller role during the playoffs. Kuzma is only 25, there is still room for him to grow, and he has nice shooting and cutting skills to play alongside LeBron and Anthony Davis. His value comes at potentially being the third piece of a big three. He's up for a big contract extension this season and could demand bigger money than the Lakers are willing to give him. Kuzma is best at power forward, and on another team, perhaps Kuzma could blossom into a star with more freedom with the ball. On the Lakers, there's just no reason to potentially overpay for that when your other option is Anthony Davis. His contract. So Derrick Rose is on a cheap contract. This upcoming season, he's set to make $7.6 million, and there's a team option after that for $8 million. That could prove to play a big role in future moves. So as we all are aware of, next season is when the big free agent giants become available. Players like Kawhi Leonard and Giannis will potentially hit the market looking for new teams. So by signing Rose now, the Lakers can improve and contend while not missing out on those players like they would by making a play for someone like Chris Paul. Rose's contract is also highly tradable should the Lakers decide to include him in any future packages. Should they select to pick up his team option next season, it becomes an expiring contract, which becomes a highly coveted asset for teams looking to free up cap space. Nabbing Rose means keeping the team's future financial flexibility open in a number of ways, from free agency to trades now and later. His recent play. So Derrick Rose obviously never returned to his MVP level after tearing his ACL. He had multiple stints with teams from the Knicks to the Cavs, but he was no longer seen as a valuable asset and absorbed bench minutes as a rotational piece. And as luck would have it, he would eventually play under a coach who he had his early success with, Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota. Thibs gave him more freedom to operate, extending his minutes to 27 per game. D-Rose would go on to average 18 points and 4.3 assists per game. His season was a feel-good story, with the highlight being his 50-point outing against the Utah Jazz, where he looked phenomenal. There were still some doubters, but the next season, Rose would join the Pistons and keep his averages near the same level at 18 points and 5.6 assists per game, while shooting a career-best 49% from the field. It's safe to assume his comeback is not a fluke, and he's a lot left to give teams. Fit on the team. So on the Lakers, Rose would fill the role of the third playmaker and shot creator behind LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Before playoff Rondo emerged, the team's offense was usually stagnant whenever LeBron left the floor. D-Rose can fix that issue by becoming the Lakers' sixth man, which would greatly reduce the load on LeBron and allow him to play less minutes per game, something that will become increasingly more important for him and the Lakers as Father Time wears on. Now, Rose isn't a good shooter from outside the arc, as he only shot 30% from 3 last season on 3 attempts per game. He gets his points by primarily driving to the basket and finishing up and around opposing defenses, and he has a nice set of skills to do so. Rose has 3 primary ways of scoring that make him hard to contain: drives to the basket, and 2 complementary moves in a pull-up jump shot and a very pretty floating jump shot that he hit on a crazy efficient 55.7%. He's going to need to be played on lineups that can space the floor to ensure he can effectively use his strengths by driving into the defense and either scoring or finding the open man. Luckily and unluckily, LeBron and AD both share the same spacing needs. Rose likely won't be able to play big minutes with the 2 stars unless his outside shot shows a big improvement, thus limiting the impact he can have in close playoff games. But on the other side, the front office will be looking to acquire more shooters to put around the 2 stars, something that will greatly benefit Rose as well as he leads the second unit. One other cause for concern is defense. Although he showed good hustle here and there, opposing players shot better than league average from all areas on the court when guarded by Rose. The NBA is loaded with good guards that could expose his issue, and with important defensive players like KCP, Rondo, and Avery Bradley likely leaving this offseason, it's going to be highly important that the Lakers get another perimeter defender. Nearly every Western team has a starting guard that can be an all-star, and you know they will be salivating to get big numbers when Rose checks in during big games. Perhaps playing under a great defensive coach like Frank Vogel helps this issue, but it's likely going to be a problem all season. Last note worth mentioning in favor of him, Derrick Rose is well respected not only by fans but by players around the league. People are happy to see him succeed, as evidenced by his teammates' enthusiastic reactions in his 50-point game with Minnesota. He's come a long way working through his injuries and doubters that included himself. There was a time Rose questioned retiring back in 2017. He broke through all the doubt and is a great example of what persistence can do and is a really inspirational story. He's a player that would be welcome in the locker room and of course by fans everywhere. So with all that said, how do you guys feel about Derrick Rose potentially joining the Lakers? Would you love it? Let me know in the comments below and subscribe if you want to see more Lakers content. Thank you and see you next time.